Elliott Wink is a science fiction and fantasy writer with a day job. She's been teaching English for nearly a decade and also has a master's in psychology. She lives with her husband and dog in Northern California and currently has 4 titles published. Elliott, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kate. So today I am going to be reading from my debut novel, After Io. And this book has a bit of mystery to it, so I thought it would be best to start actually at chapter 1 so that I don't accidentally spoil anything for you guys. So here we start at chapter 1, May 8th, 2231, 2240 Earth time. Bryn issued a mayday call 10 hours after she killed her captain. Her fingernails were stained with dry blood where she hadn't scrubbed thoroughly enough, and her jumpsuit was torn and discolored from the incident. She angled the camera so all they would be able to see was her head and the very tips of her shoulders. Then she angled herself to hide the little cuts on the left side of her face. She'd pulled her hair back into a tight bun and pinched her right cheek to bring blood flowing back into the pale, thin skin. She tried to make herself look more normal, maybe even attractive. It certainly wouldn't hurt her chances to look attractive, but normal, calm, and collected were all of the utmost importance. No one ever responded to a mayday call from a crazy person. Outer space was already hostile enough without the chaos of unstable people. To have even the smallest chance of rescue, Bryn needed to seem utterly normal, upstanding, someone worth saving. She needed to seem like someone who didn't know anything she shouldn't. She wasn't sure she was worth saving, but there was an impulse, strong and involuntary, like a gag reflex, that rejected the possibility of her own death. So here she was, about to film a commercial, trying to convince any other ship within 3 astronomical units to spend the money and fuel to come save her pathetic life. Bryn straightened her shoulders and softened the expression on her face. She breathed in to steady herself and read off the script she had written only minutes ago. Mayday, Mayday, this is Bryn Michaels of the Persica. 2 days ago, our ship lost power while en route from Io to Ligon Station after colliding with an unidentified object. Life support systems in all parts of the ship, except the cockpit, failed immediately, and 3 of our crew died shortly after impact. Bryn paused and blinked several times, trying to remember what expression she should have on her face so they did not know the next sentences out of her mouth were egregious lies. My captain passed away from resulting wounds earlier today after trying to make repairs on the ship. I am the only surviving crew member of the Persica, and I do not have the ability to repair the ship myself. I have 16 hours of oxygen remaining. Bryn looked down at her hands, split and blood red, and then back to the camera. Tears welled in her eyes. Please come save me, she said, her voice cracking. Bryn turned off the camera and encoded her coordinates into the data before sending it out into the void. She did not watch it. It was either good enough or it wasn't, but she wasn't recording it again. It took all of her energy to maintain her demeanor the first time. She knew she would only come off more erratic and detached each time she read through the contrived speech. For a moment, Bryn stayed put, half expecting a message back instantly, someone willing and ready to rescue her. She sat in front of the message board for nearly 30 minutes, unmoving, until she realized that there was no use in waiting. When she finally stood up, she went straight for the sink. Bryn scrubbed her hands for 10 minutes, getting between every line on her knuckles and deep into the cuticles of her fingernails to strip away every speck of blood on her skin. When she was finally satisfied, her skin was so raw that it nearly bled itself. But Bryn thought that might be okay. Blood would be fine if it was her own. She had plenty to spare. Laid out on the floor, amid all the other items she had pulled out of the cabinets, Bryn managed to find a long-sleeve shirt. She pulled down the top of her ripped jumpsuit and tied it around her waist. The shirt was a bit snug, but it was crisp and warm. Bryn began to feel clean again. She felt her heart rate steadying as she breathed in deep, but the tinge of iron in the air reminded her of how unclean she was. No matter how much she scrubbed her hands, Bryn turned back to the center of the cockpit, where her captain's body lay slumped in her chair. From behind, it almost looked like Amai was sleeping. Her thick black hair rose up above the top of the headrest, and her left arm was still positioned on the armrest. But the pool of dark blood directly underneath her was unmistakable, and even from a distance, someone would know that Amai was dead. It made her uncomfortable. Bryn would have been lying if she said otherwise. But there was no better option. She couldn't remove her from the cockpit because she couldn't open the doors. And even in death, Amai was still her captain. She wouldn't stuff her body into a cabinet or a corner just so she didn't have to look at what she'd done. Amai deserved better than that. Besides, Bryn did not have any intention of hiding her actions, at least not after she'd been rescued. She did what she had to do. They would all understand that. However, Bryn didn't have a good excuse for leaving Amai's blood pooled on the ground. She left it simply because she couldn't bear to get any more on herself. And all of the readings indicated that the artificial gravity would hold for at least twice as long as the oxygen, at which point she'd either be rescued or dead. With fresh scrubbed hands and a clean shirt, Bryn sat in the only unoccupied chair in the cockpit, immediately adjacent to her dead captain. She could reach out and touch Amai if she wanted, but instead, she pulled her feet up to her chest and stared forward at the stars. So that is the first chapter of After Io. And it is the first book in a series. The second book, District 5, actually just came out last Tuesday. So there will be 5 of these, and you can find them all on Amazon. Thank you guys so much for listening.